So basically a week ago, Byron said that they needed someone to do something and asked me to do it, and I said no, and so I'm here. A bit about me. I run a company called Generic People Business. I'll introduce myself. I've been doing it for 2 years now, just entering my 3rd year. And I mostly do contracting work for other indie companies, but I'm also building my own stuff on the side at the moment. I need to get more into that over the next year. So what this is kind of about is how every single contract I've had has basically come from discussions on Twitter, and it's just about kind of a post-mortem of how it's all happened and where things have gone. So I was supposed to build slides, and I panicked and ended up just building a little physics tool instead. It's all probably practicing that track on this and put it around, because that's really helpful. So,
and
it's still there. Right, so there we go. This is me, that's my Twitter account and my Twitter bio. Basically, whenever I mention someone on Twitter, I'm going to press a button and a thing will drop down, and then you can talk about that person and how cool they are. About 3 years ago, I was looking for a job and actually managed to get one. And that was working with a big, proper consultancy company in London who had managed to convince a water company that they could totally build them a serious game, even though they had no 3D artists, no coders who'd done any 3D at all. So I was pulled onto that because I'd done some X&A, which was good. So I ended up working on that. So initially as a contractor, and then went full-time. And then about a week after I went full-time on it, the CEO of the company left, the entire thing collapsed, and there's a multi-million-pound contract that just kind of vanished. So I was ending up just sitting on the bench in this company, doing nothing, because I know nothing about how to make web apps. I don't know anything about SQL. So I just had me sitting literally for a year doing nothing. So I used Twitter an awful lot during that point, and I just fiddle around with that snake things inside. Occasionally we used to fix bugs on something in the app that was terrible. Eventually, this guy popped up in my Twitter client. So I had a little side column which just had X&A, and anytime someone tweeted about X&A, I was reading it. And Dan was working on a game called Swindle in X&A. He was quite funny, so I followed him. And eventually, this actual tweet popped up, and I managed to find it, which is good. As he was looking for someone to help him, because he needed pathfinding. I was like, I've done pathfinding like years ago, it didn't work. I can totally do it now, probably, maybe. So I was sitting in the company offices, not working on any company projects, but doing pathfinding for Dan. And I made a little bit of money on the side for it. It was fantastic. About 2 weeks later, about 2 months later, it was made redundant. So obviously, the first thing you do is even though they tell you you're not allowed to tell anyone you've made you redundant, because it will destroy morale. There's anyone complaining on Twitter about that. And Dan sent me a nice email. I ended up working on some games for him. That went really well. We did some work on the Swindle, building the next name, was fucking fantastic. And eventually, he told me about this other studio that needed help in a company called PLA. So this wasn't directly through Twitter, but this was because I talked to someone on Twitter once, so it counts. And they said, we've got a client and they want a racing game and it wants to be networked online. Can you do that? I was like, yeah, of course I can do that. It was in Unity, I'd never used Unity before. It was online multiplayer, never done that before. I'd read about it, so obviously that means I can do it. So started next week, and it actually went well. So if you ever do contracting and someone asks you can do something, just say yes and then go and read the docs, because you can. So that kind of went alright. We built this nice little game, it was online and stuff. And then, just as that was coming back, there was the period when Microsoft kind of cancelled the entire X&A project. So everything that we've done on the Swindle, it was like the worry that perhaps that won't ever work on anything ever again. So back working with Dan, we're making that now in Unity. And it went really, really well. And then we both got burnt out on it. And Dan took all of the code and tweaked it and made this thing called Gun Monkeys. Has anyone heard of Gun Monkeys? So if you've not heard it, it's basically 1 versus 1, monkeys in the future killing each other to take power back to the past, and it's awesome. There's lots of blood and there's loads of colours, there's all of the colours, which is really good. That's why I love this screenshot. If you want to take a copy of this screenshot with you, I have business cards with this on. It's got my detail on the back, so if you ever need someone to do something for you in Unity, that's how you can get through to me. So we started working on this, and it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails and a massive train, just of stuff built around it. And I forgot what I'm going to say. 1 second. So I'm working on this, and the main reason I managed to get this, I think, is through working with Dan. Is way back when we'd done that first piece of can you do A star pathfinding? Yes, probably. I promised him free support, which is good. It sounds terrible, but it means every couple of weeks I get an email going, I don't know how to do this. And I just point him somewhere nicely, and sometimes you get things coming on Twitter and and problems and just how to fix them. So that's a really nice little trick. Just offer people free support and always answer their emails, because then they get to know you, and then when someone else has problems, they'll kind of plug you into there, and you get this nice whole network of people on your Twitter and your emails, just kind of all plugging together and offering everybody little bits of advice, which is really, really neat. So if we look at this, that's big, we'll just throw that out of the way, because I don't want that there. So that leads me into this company called Masters of Pi. By the way, 2 people I used to work with at EMC when we were doing that terrible, terrible cancelled project. So they moved off by themselves and they made this company called Masters of Pi. And their thing was they were going to make story-based little pieces of interactive stuff for big clients. So they did lots of stuff with the Tatty Teddy stuff for whichever birthday card company is that makes that. They also really like cool technology. So when the Oculus Rift was announced, I just kind of poked them over Twitter going, hey, I've got one, do you want to play with it? And they said yes. So I just took that down to their offices. We ended up playing a bit for a while, and then that kind of vanishes away. So this is kind of like a year after I started my business, and I've got quite a big network already built up just by poking people over the Twitters and all that kind of stuff. But because we were so busy working on gun monkeys, there was no time to kind of follow some of those things up, like the Oculus Rift stuff. It was just do you want to borrow this and make something fun? Yes. So we kept working on gun monkeys. That eventually came out on Steam and did really well. There was terrible networking bugs because we're just 2 people. We eventually managed to fix it, it all worked. So then there's this good chunk of contacts you've already built up so you can go and talk. Because you've spent all this time working and tweeting and talking to other people, you've got this big, fun network of people who care through having Twitter. When you release something like this, lots of people can now come and see it, and you'll end up meeting even more cool people, like Laura. So this is one of the first things. This is another trick. We've got those Twitter columns. I'm haven't got XNA in it anymore. Kind of doesn't work anymore. But at the time, I had gun monkeys in my search column. So we found this. So I ended up. I forgot where I'd go next. You can tell that this is incredibly badly planned. So I ended up following Laura on Twitter. So this is kind of how everything works with every single bit I've got. It's, you just follow someone, you follow someone else. It's kind of obvious. These are in the wrong order. That's the problem. Oculus Rift stuff. So we ended up after just talking about them to those people working at Masters of Pi and showing them the stuff, I ended up making this with them, which is a deep sea diving game where you sit with the rift over your head and we simulate you getting attacked by a shark after you've spent ages looking at nice things that don't think that you're in great, great danger. We have whales and all that kind of stuff, and they make nice noises. Yeah, so yeah, this is you. I'm really sorry that I completely. So yeah, this was supposed to come up for Laura. So I ended up working and starting a thing which we mentioned earlier. Once a month we will meet in Loading Bar, which is now sadly closing and moving, so I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. Byron came along to one of those. So I met you because I met Laura on Twitter, because I'd made gun monkeys, and because I had a search thing on it, and because I'd done that job for Dan when I had a search thing for something else, so everything kind of all ties up nicely there. And this is interesting because at that kind of indie meetup, like, that's kind of stuff, we'll just throw that out. Because that indie meet, we've had lots of interesting people just coming along because they heard about it on Twitter, including the guy from Nintendo who came along and we had a nice chat with him. Now at Nintendo we used Dev Kit because Byron was there, had a nice chat and ended up with Xbox One Dev Kit. So talked to Byron, talked to his account manager, he helped me get stuff. So yeah, my kind of point there is follow me on Twitter. Because when I talk about going to co-op meetings, cool people like Byron will be there, and you go, Byron, I haven't got an Xbox One Dev Kit, you've got one. It kind of helps and everything, you know, it's just...
That's screwed.
Sorry, yeah, this was slightly better time, but I kind of panicked and ruined it. Sorry. So, yeah, that's kind of like just what I want to say. It's kind of like really obvious stuff, but you've got these really good social networking tools and you should be using them. You should be trying to connect to everyone you can. You should be having searches on the just things that you're working on, things that you care about, like you know, Unity. If you're working with Unity and stuff, you should have a little search column just on the site for Unity. Don't go through everything because there's millions of tweets about that. If you just like look at it every now and then, you'll just see something interesting, like apparently Unity was announced for 3DS this morning.
What?
Yeah, I know, awesome. That's so cool. Hopefully it's going to be as easy to get into as the Wii U stuff. Who knows? You know, all these little tiny opportunities that might not seem anything serious at the time, like just saying, let's go to a cafe and play video games and, you know, when pretending to work on them. It's spiraled into this whole thing where, like, I'm now apparently like official developer for like official hardware, which is absolutely scary, but awesome. So yeah, you should totally be doing stuff like that, and you know, just trying to get every kid event like this because you never know who you're going to meet. And if anyone in the audience knows how to get me into a Sony thing, so I can get one of those as well, that would be really, really neat. And that kind of plays into this because this has all happened because we go way back in time to that first tweet from Dan, which I think is this one over here. No, this one? Yeah, that one. Because of that, all this other kind of stuff has happened in this ridiculous web of interconnected stuff. Originally, this was going to be an interconnected web of stuff with all these cards connected together with Unity 2D physics ropes. But there's unfortunately a bug in the 2D physics at the moment where if you have more than 4 joints in something, everything explodes. But it'd be all way cooler. So we've got this instead, it kind of works. I think there's one more card, which is, yeah. So that's really cool for meeting people and kind of coming up with opportunities to get contracts and stuff. It's also really good because once you've had this, like, you've been doing contracting for like 2 years and you really want to work on your own stuff, it's hard to find time for that. Over the Christmas period, I just made a shader for Unity called Painterly, which does this awesome kind of painted style. This is actually sitting off in the side somewhere of the scene, and I've got attached to a camera, rendering to a texture, which I can run here because that's awesome. So it's running live in the background, which is fun. So when it comes time to selling something like this, that network that you built up, all these people who kind of like care about you, help you get contracts and come when you go for coffees and help you get dev kits and stuff, they're going to retweet your tweets about paying for this, like people. And then that's really, really helpful because, trying to get people to see something you've worked on, which is something as useless as this, like, who the hell wants a shader that does that? I didn't think anyone would, but because so many people have retweeted it, I've sold hundreds of copies, which is amazing. And that's really, really helpful because that's now helping me build up this runway of time which I can use to spend on doing things with those dev kits which I've got, and not working on other people's things, which can be really draining. The main reason why this is terrible is because I spent the last week working on somebody else's thing. Silly, silly hours. But yeah, that's kind of that, I guess. Yeah.
Have you ever considered releasing this as kind of slides?
I did actually. I was thinking last night when I was because yesterday, rather than finishing off my slides, I went to the lighting bar with some indie people because that's what a responsible adult does when they're supposed to be doing something like this hours and hours, a few hours afterwards. So I was sitting on the train thinking, I should totally put this on GitHub so you can just download it. That didn't happen, I kind of fell asleep, which was probably a better use of my time. Because yeah, I might put it on GitHub. You should totally follow me on Twitter. You'll be able to download these amazing cards. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes.
You say how all these little searches on Twitter. What's the best app to use it?
That's a good question. So Twitter has this really weird obsession with being the only people who are allowed to make Twitter clients, even though the main reason Twitter grew to be such a big thing was because anyone could make a Twitter client. So way back when I first found my first XMA stuff, I was using a client called Destroy Twitter, which is awesome. It was the first one, I think, which had searchable columns for things. So it had, you could rearrange the columns and then tweet deck and stuff like that, start copying it. I was recently using a client called MetroTwit, which is why I bring this up, but unfortunately they've just recently closed down their business because Twitter has this lovely thing where API keys can only have so many clients using them. And to stop any other client from getting too big, because then if that gets too big, they might be a threat to Twitter's own clients, they might integrate other people's networks, which they don't want. The only way really to get around that loophole is by having Twitter buy your company and owning your client. So that kind of doesn't happen. So just use whatever the official Twitter ones are, they'll probably do it, maybe, who knows. Yeah?
I was wondering if bad things happen on Twitter too.
Yeah, it's going to be terrible. Because you're typing all these things into an area you kind of assume is your own little private, nice place with all the people you know, but kind of you forget that it is public. And those search terms that you're using to find nice people offering you jobs next to them, there are some terrible people using that for the opposite reasons, just to tell you that you suck. Yeah, and it can be hard. And there are lots of companies like Twitter that have all these things and they don't really understand how their own tools can be used to ill. So a while ago, you probably heard Twitter change the way their blocking mechanism worked, which is a terrible, terrible thing, because they don't understand how their own network can be used to make people's lives terrible. Luckily, they reversed that, but it can happen, and there's nothing you can really do in those situations other than turn your computer off and walk away, which, if you're stuck in that situation, is a terribly hard thing to do, so it is good. It can be terrible, yeah. Not very much to say with that. Yeah?
Do you use Twitter lists that show how many lists you have?
Sorry?
Twitter lists. You
Twitter lists? No, I don't use any lists. I just follow like 1,000 odd people and try and keep track of it, and it doesn't work very well. So I do tend to miss a lot of things, and there are a lot of good lists out there, which Dan Marshall has one called The Secret Indie Cabal, which is awesome. You should use that list.
It's not secret anymore, right?
It's not secret, no, but I'm on it, which is awesome. Oh yeah, it's a secret club, yeah, no one should know about it, so don't tell anybody. No, I don't use lists, but I probably should because that's sensible, but I think we've all just discovered that I'm not very good at being sensible. So, yeah.
Well, it's not just about you using the list, it's about having other people discover people via the list that you curate.
Yeah, so when Twitter first came around, like I've been using it for like 6-7 years now. Whichever one makes sense chronologically with when they opened their company. I started about a year after it came out. They used to have a thing where no matter what you tweeted, everyone you followed would see that. Now they have a thing that when you're replying to somebody, you don't see it unless you put a dot in front of it, which was initially done purely because they had too much load. It's a terrible way to fix your load issues. So yeah, it can be hard to find people now because the way you used to find cool people in the old days is look at who the people you care about talking to, and they make it hard to do that. So lists are pretty much one of the only ways to do that, other than just periodically clicking on your friends, you know, like homepage bits on Twitter, and just having a look at what they're doing, which is ridiculous. Twitter should really do something about that, other than their automatic, you should really follow this person, which never works. Yeah. Yeah?
How was your experience of selling painted in the asset store?
So, my one piece of advice with the asset store bit is the second that you get the email from Unity saying, congratulations, it's now in the store, is to go through their incredibly terrible UI and figure out where the form is that you need to pull out to get into a sale, because you make so much money in a sale. It's ridiculous. I think that's mostly a discoverability issue. The asset store has terrible discoverability. Like, my app's called Painterly, and I use the word paint quite a lot in the text. So when it first went up, if you went to the asset store and just typed paint into the search box, it wouldn't come up. Because the searching stuff mostly works off the title of your app and what you tag things in Unity as being. They have a little mass tagging tool. So basically you have to tag every single one of the shaders with the word paint, and then they're like, oh yeah, this obviously should, yeah, like it. So yeah, asset store, same as any other store which has like tens of thousands of things on, discoverability is hard. Sales are good because you get 2 slots on the front page. Those 2 things on the front page drive so many views to your asset, and you do get good sales. I was on 65% off, and I made more in the first 5 hours than I had made in the previous 2 months that had been on full sale, which is really good. And another thing is if you are on sale, what you can do is load up Excel, take the first 2-3 hours of your sale, put down like those, like timestamp like every 25 minutes how many copies you sell, and then use Excel's trend function, and it pretty much accurately predicts what your final sales value would be, which I was amazed at. It's so much fun. I spent an awful lot of time that day looking at numbers. It's great fun. It's quite easy to find data on the asset store for how things do in the madness-like sales. They like run week-long ones, but their 24-hour sales is much harder to find data on. If you want data, follow my Twitter account because I was tweeting every 15 odd minutes what I was selling. Partly out of vanity, partly because I don't want the data in our house and I assume people might want to know. So yeah, there's that. Any other questions? I think we're good. Thank you.